have enjoyed your lunch full with chemtrails and mind-controlling stuff, because now we will speak about conspiracy theories. For this purpose, I will present to you our next speaker. Actually, she is the only female speaker today. She is from Greece and has a master's degree in cognitive sciences. Her focus lies on cognitive biases, rational thinking, and behavioral economics, and she is also a founder of Learn Liberty Greece and Women for Liberty. Please, your applause for Yulie Foka-Kavalieraki.
Okay, thank you. So the first thing I want to say is why. Why talk about conspiracy theory and rational thinking at a conference full of libertarians, right? Well, this is because, for three reasons. The first is that classical liberalism goes historically hand in hand with rationalism. At the age of the Enlightenment of reason and science, the great classical liberal thinkers were skeptic towards dogma and tradition and metaphysical explanations of the world. So rationalism and reason is entrenched in liberalism. The second reason is the fundamental premise of economics, the rationality premise, which is actually the subject of my PhD. Libertarians believe that people are capable of rational thinking. That's why they deserve to be free to choose. That's why they deserve to have a free market, right? The third reason is that sadly, free markets and capitalism and neoliberalism has been the object of speculations of many conspiracy theories. Maybe you have such experiences yourself. And they have been demonized for centuries by conspiracy theories. This is why I chose to talk about conspiracy theories here. So let's start with a sort of definition. I put theory in quotation marks because, of course, this is not a scientific theory. It never is. As Karl Popper said at his seminal book, The Open Society and Its Enemies, in 1945, what conspiracy theories try to do is to substitute the scientists. They want to substitute sociology, historiography, economics and political economy with an alternative history, with bogus economics, with fantastical political science. And they want to offer their own simplistic and false explanation of how this chaotic world of ours works. So these are the basic characteristics of a conspiracy theory. There is always about a group of people that are acting secretly in order to gain something, which is, of course, usually money or power, and they're doing it, of course, against the interests of the general public. Taguieff, in his last book, The French Philosopher, also offers these characteristics of conspiratorial thinking. So what conspiracy theories are all about is that nothing happens by accident. Everything happens for a reason. Always there is someone behind random events. So everything happens as a result of evil intentions and evil wills. There is always this mean group of people that drive events in history. So nothing is what it seems. If you think you saw Neil Armstrong landing on the moon, you're wrong, right? He wasn't on the moon, he was in Hollywood. And of course, everything is interconnected, from the French Revolution to the JFK assassination to the 9/11. All these events are interconnected because they're driven by the same forces. And every fact that is officially reported by governments or the media should be over-criticized and over-examined. Now, this is not a bad thing in itself to be skeptic, but they're overdoing it, and their ultimate goal is to prove that the official reports of facts are false and are a lie. Did conspiracy theories just appear today? No. Many people believe that conspiracy theories must have existed since real conspiracies. Karl Popper also said in his book that what we did nowadays is we substituted the Olympian gods who manipulated the events and the outcomes of human fate with capitalists and neoliberals. What seems to happen, because this is very complicated, why do we always have conspiracy theories? Why there are so millions of people that support conspiracy theories? Well, there is a small consensus that conspiracy theories tend to emerge when global events happen, great events happen in history that have a global impact. So it started in the new era, it started with the French Revolution, when they thought that it wasn't an event as it appeared to be, but the Jacobins, who were Masons and who were the descendants of the Illuminati, the infamous Illuminati, who were behind the French Revolution, and what they wanted to do was to change the world as we know it and conquer it. When the Bolshevik Revolution in Russia happened some decades later, those Illuminati Jacobin Masons were substituted with communist Jews Masons. Now they were the perpetrators that they wanted to conquer the world. The next big event that spawned conspiracy theories was the big economic financial crash of Wall Street in 1929. Now the Jews, communist Masons were the American Zionist Masons, that their center of activities was Wall Street and they wanted to dominate the world. These beliefs that the American Zionists were behind big catastrophic events built up to the Second World War, and conspiracy theories acted on their conspiracy theories, as we know, with all the devastating events that happened then. So after World War II, the biggest event was Kennedy's assassination. This spawned thousands of conspiracy theories around the world that persist even today. And actually it was a single event when the words conspiracy theory started to have a negative connotation, because up to then the words conspiracy theory had a neutral sense. Then afterwards, of course, it was the 9/11. We talk about global conspiracy theories, that people all over the world believe in these conspiracy theories. And then, of course, the global financial crisis of 2008. So what I want to point here is to these last bullets, that each time we see that the conspiracy theory just transforms through the ages, and the only thing that changes are the perpetrators. Now there are the neoliberals, the capitalists that want to impose new world order around the world due to the globalization and everything that happens. And the second important point is that don't think that conspiracy theories emerge just from bottom up, that they're only citizens that are prone to become conspiracy theories because they're skeptic of official authorities. Throughout the history and even today, there are top-down conspiracy theories. Actual governments promote conspiracy theories for their own interests. Think about Venezuela, think about the Islamic State, think about North Korea, think about every nationalistic or populist government. They tend to spread conspiracy theories so that they can create enemies apart from themselves for every evil that begets their countries. So these are a few of the famous or infamous conspiracy theories that still persist a lot today, the strongest conspiracy theories. As we said, the Bilderberg Group, everyone has heard of that they're so strong that they dominate the entire world. And of course, there are a bunch of Illuminati Zionists in there. The 9/11 truthers, it doesn't matter if you are a conservative or a liberal, the 9/11 conspiracy theories are for everybody, as was the JFK assassination. Of course, the landing on the moon, and this is very popular in Greece, and I heard it's popular in Bulgaria as well, the chemtrails, right? They spray us, so we're subservient and obedient. Yes, I didn't check the sky, but I will. And a friend of mine informed me recently from the worst conspiracy theory I could ever imagine. The destruction of Death Star was an inside job. I mean, Darth Vader conspired with the Rebel Alliance, something like that, I don't know. So, let's take Greece as the textbook example of conspiracy theories, believers. A recent survey by a few very important Greek scholars showed these results. 75% of Greeks believe that the Greek crisis was imposed and pre-designed by foreign powers and foreign centers of decision centers and powers, evil centers, of course. 69% of Greeks believe that the cure for the cancer has been discovered ages now, and it's hidden from governments, and is only available to a few mega-rich people, like Steve Jobs. Anyone? He died from cancer, yes. 59% believe that the 9/11 was an inside job, and that is an event that you should expect that it would concern Americans, but no, as we said before, even Greeks that didn't have any direct impact, they're very strong convicted. And of course, 27% believe that we never landed on the moon. These are the conspiracy theories that they mostly believe, the Greeks. What's interesting is a question that the researchers posed. Now, Loukas Papadimos was an interim prime minister we had for 6 months in a transitional government from 2011 to 2012, when George Papandreou's government resigned. And he was sworn in on the 11th of November 2011, and he happened to be the 11th Prime Minister of Greece. These are all true facts. So the question was, do you think this is a coincidence? And 30% of the people answered that it's not a coincidence. Now, 30% is a big percentage, don't underestimate it. So, $1 million question is, who believes in conspiracy theories? What are the traits, the characteristics that the person has that will lead him or her to believe in conspiracy theories? This guy, right? Most people believe that this is a stereotype of a conspiracy theorist, that it is a male, middle-aged white man still living with his parents, I guess, and being a wacko and a nerd in the internet and trying to always reading about conspiracy theories. But this is not the fact. According to Asinski and Parents' great book about American conspiracy theories that was out last year, conspiracy theories permeate all parts of American society and cut across. It doesn't matter what's your gender, your race, your educational level, or your occupational status and class, or your political affiliation. This means that everyone is prone to believe in conspiracy theories. So at the question with Loukas Papadimos, and if it's a coincidence, if you can see, education does play a role, but it's not that important. So even if you are a university graduate or a postgraduate of university, you can believe that it was not a coincidence. Okay? And what about income and economic status? Okay, this is Greek, but it's easy. These are farmers, laborers, lower middle class, and upper middle class. So the worst is the petite bourgeoisie here, who think that it's not a coincidence. But even then, there are people and significant percentages that believe in these sort of things. What the Asinski and Parent found is that your political affiliations don't matter either. So if you are here in the United States, when you say very liberal, we mean left, all right, very left. And very conservative is very conservative. So both Republicans and liberals, very liberals or very conservatives, are prone to believe and do believe in conspiracy theories. It doesn't matter on which side of the political spectrum you are. Of course, if you are at the far ends of the political spectrum, it's the same thing. You also tend to believe to the same conspiracy theories. So the difference is the sort of the conspiracy theory you believe. So if you are a conservative, you will tend to believe, to be skeptic towards government, and you will tend to be, it's likely you'll think that Obama wasn't born in America and is a Muslim and wants to change America and transform it into a Muslim country. And if you are a liberal, it's more likely that you believe in a conspiracy theory that is skeptic towards corporations, so you might be against genetic mutilated organisms and stuff like that. So the second million-dollar hurdle is why? Why do people believe? If everyone is prone to believe, why? How come? Michael Shermer is a celebrated skeptic of our times, and he has suggested these four characteristics that are innate in our brains and minds. We all have these tendencies. The first is patternicity. Patternicity is when in a chaotic world and universe of thousands of random events, our brain sees patterns. And this is a very high survival skill, of course, but it also has its bad side effects. It's when we see patterns when they're not, and this is what happens with conspiracy theories. Because conspiracy theories offer us a simple explanation of this chaotic world, which has a lot of causes and difficult things that even scientists cannot decipher. The second characteristic that is also innate to our brains is the agenticity. It's when we attribute intelligent intentions, designs to things, to facts. Nothing happens without a reason. Someone wanted those things to happen. This is that there is a subjective will behind those events. The third is the famous confirmation bias. It was referred by our first speaker. It's very famous. We all do it all the time. It's when we cherry pick facts and arguments that confirm our already existing beliefs. We don't like to see the facts, or we don't like to hear the arguments that will contradict our beliefs. If you pair that with a hindsight bias, which is when an event has already happened, it's easier to explain it ex post. And it's easier to think that, yes, of course, we all should have seen it coming, and things like that. There is another bias that I believe is very important. It's the attribution bias. It's when we systematically make mistakes, when we try to attribute, to evaluate the reasons why of our behavior and of the others. Professor Hadis and I did a preliminary research based on this attribution bias, and the idea got to us from Michael Shermer and his colleagues, who did the same thing, but they asked about God and religion. So we asked our subjects just two questions. We divided them randomly in two groups. The first question was, how often do you think you get influenced by commercial advertisements, and why? And the second group was asked, how often do you think the average person gets influenced by commercial advertisements, and why? So the first thing we see is that when it comes to ourselves, we usually think we're less influenced. When it comes to the others, we tend to think that they're more influenced. But what's more important are the reasons that we attribute. So when it comes to myself, I think that I'm rationally motivated. I think that the advertisements are a source of information for me because I know my true needs. I don't get brainwashed or something, and then I filter everything I see and hear. And actually, whatever I buy, I know that I need it, and I know exactly what I want to buy. Whereas when it comes for the others, they're emotionally driven. They get brainwashed. They lack judgment. They have weakness of will. They don't know what their true needs are. Impressive ads can get into their subconscious and make them buy things that they don't want. So why is this important here for the discussion of the conspiracy theories? This is very interesting in general for human psychology, right? But it's interesting because I want to point out how each one of us is prone to believe, could believe in myths and conspiracy theories. If we think, each one of us thinks that it's better and smarter than anybody else, this is a trap, right? So we should be aware of these cognitive traps. So the third $1 million question is, okay, and how can we debug conspiracy theories and myths? I'm sure that at least once a time in your lifetime you have confronted a conspiracy theorist, someone that has a strong conviction and tries, says things about all this that we said, and you have to know that you cannot really talk with them. It's very difficult. And given the fact that millions of people persist in believing in conspiracy theories for centuries, it is a very hard task to try to debunk a conspiracy theory or to convince someone that it's not true. So this is a toolbox. If we want to debunk a myth or a conspiracy theory, we should see how our minds and brains work rather than what's the real debunking. So there is the familiarity effect. If you want to debunk something, just try not to refer to it a lot. Focus on the messages you want to communicate, on the true facts. Say that there is a young mother that has a baby and you want to convince her that vaccines are good. You shouldn't start by presenting the anti-vaxxers' theories, okay, because you will familiarize her with this, and that's not good. Just focus on the things you really want to say. The second is the cognitive overload. This is true, this is a fact. Too much information we can't handle. So even if you are enthusiastic about something and you have a lot of things to say, just try and sum them up and make a summary of them and use just a few and simple arguments, because even if the cognitive theorist has a lot to say, you shouldn't use the same strategy. We talked about the confirmation bias, but there's also the disconfirmation bias, which is even worse. What's that? When someone is strongly convicted about something, and he or she holds their beliefs, and you try to talk to him or her with counter-arguments, you think that they hear you and that they open their mind and they're ready to receive your very logical and neat counter-arguments. But what is really happening inside the strong convicted person's mind is that while he hears you, he already builds his counter-arguments, because that's the only thing he cares about, to confirm his existing beliefs. So what do we do about that? Nothing. We can't do anything, really. Everyone who studies the social phenomena and psychological phenomena of conspiracy theories advise us not to bother with fixated people. You can't change them. But the good news is that the really fixated people are actually a minority, and most people, which is the majority, are indecisive about conspiracy theories and myths. So try to focus on them. And there are huge possibilities that you might convince them. And the last tool is what I call horror vacui. It's from the Aristotelian maxim. Aristotle said that nature abhors vacuums. Well, we say mind abhors vacuums as well. So when you debunk something, it's not enough. When you prove to someone, and that someone really believes you, that, okay, you discredited something, but you don't offer an alternate explanation to fill the gap, this gap eventually will fill again with the only existing stuff there is, the myth. This is very important in courtrooms, because in fake courts, it has been proven that when the defender tries to prove to the jury that his client did not commit the murder, let's say, even if he presents a lot of evidence and proofs, if the jury just stays with that and okay, yes, your client is not the murderer, but who did it? The defender has to point to an alternative suspect. That's the best strategy, because after a while, the jury will want to fill the gap. Okay, he didn't do it, but who did it? And they will turn again to the only existing suspect that they know. So this is what I wanted to say. And closing, I refer to sources and sites that will help you further get into the literature. And I want to stay to the last, which is the LearnLiberty.org. I'm sure you know it. There are a lot of videos there that debunk and explain a lot of misconceptions about philosophy, economics, and political science. And in Greece, we have the Learn Liberty Greece, which we make our Greek subtitles to these videos, and now we're going to start making our own videos, so maybe these are ideas for you guys too. Okay, this is it.
Great, so we have now 30 minutes for question-answer session, and there's the first volunteer.
Okay, first I would like to ask, are there any conspiracies in this world?
Yes, of course. Of course there are. I mean, the first one that comes in mind is Watergate, okay? Of course there are conspiracies. Real conspiracies happen every day. Do you have any doubt for that?
They do happen every day. In fact, I've spent a lot of time in courthouses in the United States of America. I can speak to them. I can't speak to the rest of the world, but I would guess it's very similar. Every day in court, there are people who are on trial, who are getting convicted, who are getting prosecuted for all kinds of conspiracies. Conspiracy to steal, conspiracy to rob, conspiracy to kill, conspiracy to murder, and even worse sometimes. Now, I don't know why I'm supposed to believe that only low-life thugs in the streets would actually conspire to do stuff like that, whereas people who are in government, who have the legal authority to steal, to rob, to kill, would never consider doing something like that.
But we know that they do. That's why immediately when I saw you, I referred to Watergate, right? But I think that this is a legal term, conspiring to murder and things. I think we're not talking about the same thing. That's why I defined what I mean with conspiracy theory.
You talked a lot about 9/11.
Yes.
I'm not going to argue whether the official story is true or not. What I'm going to say is the official story is a conspiracy. It's a grand conspiracy. The official story is that Osama bin Laden conspired with 19 Islamist hijackers who got on planes and brought down the buildings. That's a conspiracy.
Yes, well, we're all liberals here, and you're free to believe whatever you like. I'm not going to contradict you to that.
That's good news, because I wasn't sure from your presentation. I was going to ask. I wasn't sure if
well,
this
it
is
only
something...
appeared like 100 times as a textbook example of conspiracy theory.
I wasn't sure if this was something encouraging free thought or discouraging it.
Yes.
I come from, luckily, a background of investigative journalism. I am taught to question government,
yes,
not to take the official story as fact, as ultimate truth, but rather to question it. And more often than not, we find that politicians are lying. Go figure. Yes. I especially in this part of the world, it would just amaze me that people would take what the government says as truth without questioning it. In the past century, just the past century, in Europe and the former Soviet Union, their government murdered how many people? Tens of millions, maybe more than 100 million? Why are we supposed to just assume that what the government says is truth and not question it?
On the contrary, I'm saying that libertarianism, at least here, we're very skeptic, particularly against governments. And we don't believe everything governments say, especially us. When they say that taxes are good for you, we tend not to believe that, and so many other things. But you're referring to a particular event because you are interested in this particular event, and now you're trying to say that we should be skeptic towards everything the government does, but you're only interested in 9/11, because we are not. We don't trust the government. Who said that? So what are you exactly saying? We do not trust the government in everything it does.
No, I'm not specifically talking about 9/11. What I said is that the official story of 9/11 is a conspiracy. Whether or not that's true, it's a conspiracy. And there are conspiracies all around us, and what I'm saying is that I am not going to assume that only low-life thugs, people in court for theft, for robbery, for whatever, are carrying out conspiracies. Meanwhile, the government takes our money and then gets to redistribute it as it chooses and gets to steal and gets to kill with legal authority, yet they're not going to conspire and I'm not supposed to question them. So that's my comment.
Yes, of course you're supposed to question, and if you're an investigating reporter, it's your job, and we expect from you to try and prove when the government lies. So that's a good thing. It's not a bad thing.
In the back.
Yeah, I just wanted to. I think I can clarify something. Basically,
I'm sorry, I can't see who is speaking. Okay. Yes.
The criticism towards conspiracy theories is not that we should, I mean, the point is not that we should take everything the government says for granted and never question it. The problem with conspiracy theorists is that they say, okay, there's something wrong with this story, that the official story of the government, I don't buy it, and so far it's good. And then they go on to come up with their own very specific theory about what actually happened without giving any evidence whatsoever. It's like the Illuminati or the lizard people or whatever. And you know, that's the problem. Not that everything that is being presented is exactly as it is, you know.
Okay, then pass here in the front. Or actually, I will give you my mic.
All right, just a quick one, because I was provoked from the first speaker, first question or statement actually, as I understood it. I would like to argue that, of course, conspiracy happens every day, but defining what conspiracy means in the political context is different from defining what conspiracy means in legal context. So conspiracy theories are used in a political context all the time. For example, there is a grand conspiracy encroaching religious liberty in the United States. That's a classical conservative conspiracy theory. Also, you could argue that in Eastern Europe, many conspiracy theories arose after the fall of the Soviet Union, explaining the unexplainable economic processes to inexperienced people in the context of capitalism and democracy. So when we talk about conspiracy theory, we should definitely define the political meaning of conspiracy theory. That's what we're using here, as I understood from the entire lecture. And definitely the object that probably we should focus on is how to counter these messages. And that's probably the most difficult question to answer, but I would hope we could focus on that a little bit more. Thank you.
Please pass the mic there.
Okay, well, my question is pretty simple. What I saw from your lecture, you actually you have a pretty specific definition for conspiracy theory, and it involves people who do something, who conspire to do something to benefit from it. But I think there are more types of conspiracy theories, and I'll give you an example right away. There's a conspiracy theories that we've already met aliens, and the governments conspire, especially the government.
But that's it. There is a group of people.
Yeah, it's a group of people, but I'm just giving an example of a group. Yeah,
yes.
They conceive it not to benefit from something, not to gain a benefit, but to preserve the status quo.
Of course.
Are there different types of conspiracy theories? There are.
There are 1,000 different types.
And what is the difference in a political context? I mean, in how they affect us? Because there are conspiracy theories which are supernatural, and there are conspiracy theories which are political, like 9/11, for example.
There are conspiracy theories that are not about a group of people, like the one you said about aliens, or more individualistic conspiracy theories like Elvis is still alive, or Paul McCartney is already dead, okay, things like that. But I focused on the specific because I wanted to have to focus on something. And I believe that these are the most serious ones. And the repercussions are important. First, these anti-Semitic conspiracy theories led to World War II and to Nazi Germany and the Holocaust. So you never know when conspiracy theories will form a critical mass, will be fanatic enough, and will act on their conspiracy theory. This happens with Islamist extremists in the Middle East right now. And in general, it's not a good thing to have all these biases all together in your mind for somebody. And all the research shows, even the research that was done in Greece, that there is one indicator, social indicator, that goes hand in hand with belief in conspiracy theories and anti-Semitism, and it's very low social trust. So there you go, there's another bad side effect, or reason, or cause, or definitely correlation.
Excuse me, but who is authorities to say what is true and what is a conspiracy theory? What are you going to say about the conspiracy theory later being proved that they are true?
Yes, you're right. There are some conspiracy theories that were later proven to be true. So this is why I offered a small toolbox in the beginning and in the end. So there are some characteristics that signal that something is bogus, like everything happens for a reason, nothing is random, always there's some evil will behind it. So there are some signals to guide you before. We all have this instinct. Michael Sermer calls it the bullshit detector. I think we all have it, more or less.
But now the Mr. in the middle.
Hello. Are you aware of the fact that the Federal Reserve in the United States is a conspiracy, a proven conspiracy, that came into existence after 18 years of hard work by the House of Morgan, which included a ton of money spent, thousands of lectures, and basically making sure that thousands of economists and journalists promote the idea all over the media from 1895 till it came into existence in 1913.
What idea do they promote? I didn't get it.
The idea of central bank in the United States. This was explained quite well by Murray Rothbard in his brilliant book, History of Money and Banking in the United States from Colonial Era to World War II.
I'm not familiar, but I think there's someone who is.
Then, there in the back.
Hello, what about the connection between the conspiracy theories and propaganda?
Yes, this is what I said before. It's the top-down dissemination of conspiracy theories. It's not that only citizens that create conspiracy theories, it's also governments, and it's usually populist or nationalistic governments that want to use it as a propaganda. They want to get the attention of their citizens away from the real problems and perpetrators and blame a foreign center, something outside their potentials. So yes, the top-down conspiracy theories is a tool for propaganda, always. But if someone wants to answer about the Federal Reserve, because I think you can answer? No, okay, so another question.
Okay, I think someone there in the middle had a question,
okay.
Then in the back.
The sir in the middle.
You have already. Yeah, I have already, Mike. I was wondering, you said that we have a doubting majority and a headstrong minority which believe whatever they are being told that there is a conspiracy.
An indecisive majority, not
Yeah.
a doubting.
Okay, an indecisive majority. I do believe that one thing that perpetuates these conspiracy theories is that they're constantly hammered into the mainstream, like for example the JFK assassination. Even though we have this very thorough report by the Warren Commission, people still believe that the CIA or the Soviet Union did, and it's repeated and repeated for the past 50 years. Don't you believe that the best way to exclude and to limit these conspiracy theories to the convinced minority is just not to talk about them?
Yes, it would be an ideal world not to talk about these things, but I will never condone something that would infringe free speech of the press, first. And second, you're right, this happens, but this is the cost we pay for free speech. In Greece, it's not just that a lot of big media are actually anti-Semitic and they talk in broad daylight about Jews being behind, and Zionists behind Greece's doom, but also members of the parliament and members of the government also disseminate this kind of bullshit in the Greek parliament. So yes, I would prefer that these people didn't exist and that they didn't talk like that, but on the other hand, I wouldn't infringe on their rights.
Hi,
Yes.
so from your scientific field of cognitive science, are you familiar with the theory of memes?
Yes.
And how they spread from one brain to another? Because conspiracy theories are exactly this.
Yes.
And it's very interesting to investigate from this point of view how they are propagated.
Yes, so a meme is like a gene. It transmits information and culture like a gene does. It carries genetic information. So yes, I think there is some theoretical stuff that is based on that. And yes, it's very interesting to know how conspiracy theories spread among people. It is. Yes. You. Yes, you.
Okay, I can just shout.
Yeah.
Okay.
First of all, I think it was Mark Twain who said that people are much easier to be lied to than being convinced that they're being lied to. And I think it was then Mel Gibson's character in the same title movie who said that the fact that I'm being paranoid doesn't mean I'm not being told. So I think it's a nice feature of human mind to question things, to not take a fact as absolute truth, but just ask questions all the time. And it would probably be the best way to just expose everything, just make it perfectly transparent and let people decide what is true and what is not, than just covering things, making up reports and publishing this part and that part and the third part. So about 9/11, if everything was exposed, every piece of information and detail that was known to agencies and people who are investigating, probably people would be easier to decide on what's true, what's not, who conspired, whether they did or whether they not. But now with the government monopoly on information, because it's government monopoly, the agencies and everything, it's very difficult to just to take the decision for yourself, to be able to decide what is true and what is not, being aware that this is not the whole information. And that's why theories spread. And no matter how strange it sounds, I don't think all this conspiracy theories is bad, because it makes people think about things and ask questions. And sometimes maybe people will come up with an answer to the question, okay, it's a conspiracy theory, but maybe they will find an explanation.
Sorry, but we don't have so much time for every individual
Yes,
opinion, and I have one plea. Please, from now on, speak only with microphone, because we are recording this thing and we will upload it in YouTube, and perhaps now 2 minutes will be deleted. Okay.
Okay,
Next question.
I will answer. I agree with most of the things you say, but I disagree with the fact that it's okay if you are skeptic towards everything. This is skepticismos. relativism. And this, when it's taken to extremes, is never a good thing, because then you're not certain about anything. But there are some things that we are certain, and there are things that we can't be certain, and our guide should always be science and more scientific methods. And it's not that we should doubt everything, just to doubt everything. We should doubt things in order to reach the truth. And it's not a good thing to believe in stupid things. I cannot put it in the same, if you are a skeptic mind, and you should be a skeptic mind, and you want to ask questions, there is a right way to do it. There is. And as far as the 9/11, you're right. This is what we want, the governments to be transparent. This is a holy grail. This is the holy grail of democracy, right? And we are skeptic towards governments because governments tend to conceal things. This is their job. But as far as 9/11 is concerned, I'm pretty sure that there are extensive official reports about every detail, because the American public and the American journalists, they don't let things to go so easy. They're always chasing the government.
Hello. Because we are here in Sofia, Bulgaria, Eastern Europe, so one of the questions after the fall of Berlin Wall, and many people still believe in this, is that people from the ex-secret services in all these countries, they are still manipulating political and economic development of East European countries. And especially
Putin was an ex-KGB guy, right? And
right,
he's still in charge of things.
And still, this is the main conspiracy theory. For example, in Bulgaria, every time when we have an upcoming elections, so this is a top priority, let's say, conspiracy, whether the candidates used to help or to cooperate with the previous secret services, or some of them even are ex-servants, let's say, officers from there. So what do you think? Is it really a conspiracy?
I have no idea.
That's true?
Idea, but I suspect that there might be something there. I suspect that citizens of Bulgaria would not like to have ex-criminals in charge. This happens in Greece too. If they were members of the junta government or they were tormentors of the junta, the information is spread and we don't want to vote for them or have them in the parliament. That's another thing. Yes, something else? Yes, the gentleman here in front.
Where is the mic?
Okay,
I think that Mr. Hattis was first.
It's okay.
Okay.
Just give a comment.
Good. Then leave your comment and then the Mr. in the middle.
I think that the soundest criterion for spotting a conspiracy theory is to find the source of it. If the source is crazy. And you know what is very interesting? That more than 90% of conspiracy theories emanate from ultra-right wingers in the United States. And more than 50 or 60% of them are immediately adopted by the loony left. This is the best and the soundest criterion. Find the source. If the source is the American ultra-right wingers, then it is probably a crazy conspiracy theory and not an actual conspiracy. And another interesting fact is that in Greece, during the 20s and 30s and 50s after the war, most conspiracies, anything that happened in Greece that it was considered bad, it was linked to Bulgarians. Probably the Bulgarian Secret Service did that. The Royal Secret Service before the war, the Communist after the war. But after the 50s, we found new enemies and new conspiracies, so the Bulgarians now are our friends.
Right now we are conspirating.
Okay, I have a question. How do we argue against conspiracy theories which at their core contain real conspiracies. Like we mentioned, in many of the ex-Soviet countries and satellites, there are people in the political power who are ex-KGB or ex-Secret Service members. While people believe that this is some big conspiracy where, let's say, all those ex-members of the Secret Service sit on one table and conspire against the country, that's not true for obvious reasons. But there is a conspiracy, not a real one like a conspiracy theory, but there is a conspiracy which is not organized, which is just people in power tend to help other people in power. How do you argue against such theories?
If someone is really sensitive to this thing, you should investigate the literature. You won't take it further. You can investigate archives. You can write about it, but you should be meticulous in your work and have a scientific methodology as you deploy your arguments. And then you will have positive results. Either you will confirm something or you will falsify it. And either way, it's a win.
5 minutes left. We have time for another questions. Please express your opinion in up to 5 sentences.
Yes.
Okay, so basically I'm interested in behavioral science. And one thing that I know from it is that normal, ordinary people, once they have beliefs, facts don't really matter. Meaning that you can show them facts that contradict their beliefs.
Yes, that's the confirmation bias that we talked about.
And my question was that some of the ways that you said can debunk theories, conspiracy theories, are to rely on facts. But according to behavioral science, if you present facts, people get even more entrenched in their beliefs.
Yes, this is the third bullet, confirmation bias and disconfirmation bias.
And my question was that if you cannot argue with facts, can you argue with emotion?
Well, my guess is no.
And can you argue at all?
If it's your girlfriend, maybe you can, but if it's a stranger, I don't think so. How will you manipulate his or her emotions? Will you say, well, will you talk down to them? That's not always the best strategy. Will you discredit them and just be condescending? I do that, I usually do that. I think it's not a good thing. I don't think you should, it won't get you anywhere to play with emotions. If anything, it will insult them and make them even more convicted.
And also a follow-up question: how big is do you think it is the fixated minority, the people who always believe?
Well, I showed some percentages in Greece, so I suppose the rest, the number that remains, is someone that don't believe in these conspiracy theories. But in Greece, some conspiracies, as we saw, are up to 80%. You don't have to believe in every conspiracy. Some people believe just in one conspiracy theory. I used to believe in a few conspiracy theories when I was very young. Other people believe in several conspiracy theories. It's, the percentages are always for a specific conspiracy theory. But my guess is that every day, every time, there is always someone who believes in a sort of conspiracy theory. So,
thanks.
Is there some next question? Then we want to take Miss Foka-Kavalieraki, and I have one small message from you, and it's only for Bulgarian speakers. There will be an essay contest on economic topics organized by the Bulgarian Libertarian Society, and if you want to know more, please approach Mr. Panchev. Thank you very much.